Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and we're kind of at the end of the EB02 meta for the English version of the One Piece card game. We had one big weekend this past weekend where we had a lot of events around the world. I currently have deck lists for 3 of them, and I'm still kind of on the prowl for more of them, but I did kind of want to make a video just going over what I had so far, and if we get some more data, we'll continue to update the website too. So this is like the second to last weekend of EB02. We've got one more weekend, this upcoming one where EB02 is legal, but OP11 is not here for the English version. So a little bit is going to be, my thoughts transitioning into the new meta as we have OP11 on the horizon. And there is a pretty good chance this is my last EB02 video because, again, we are closing this format as well. So if you guys want any of the data that we're going over, you can check out my website, Eggman Events, which is linked to the description. Again, if we do get more tournament data, we'll be updating it here. I just likely won't be making another video for it, and you guys can make sure to check that out as well. So the 3 events we do have are 2 of the TAC Online events as well as the Unsung Events Online Treasure Cup as well. And for these events, they were rounding between like 200 and 512 players respectively. We did have the Green Purple Luffy win 2 of the events, both of the TAC Games ones, as well as Betty getting 1st and 2nd place for the Unsung Event Online Treasure Cup 2. So we also have 18 different leaders top across these 3 events, which I think is pretty insane to see the amount of diversity right now. I know a lot of people moving from OP10 to EB02 were worried that, that Luffy was like too strong of a leader into this format. And I will agree, it is definitely the best deck in the format, from a format where we were unsure what the best deck was, quite yet. So you can definitely see it's there. Shanks, Dofi, and Teach did make a good amount of the OP10 meta, but it wasn't something I think that was outrageously, overtopping compared to, maybe where Green Purple Luffy is. But it's not unbeatable. It's not tier 0. It's just the best deck in the format. And there is still just so much room for diversity, which I think is really, really cool. So we're going to go over the top placing leader for each one of the leaders that we have. Again, we've got 18. You can find the timestamps below if you want to just jump to one of them. And let's start off with our first place list of the Green Purple Luffy. So we've got Bill and Steven's version of the deck here, and this is Bill's version, this is Steven's version, and the diversity for this leader is a little bit low for how the card pool works. One, you're kind of mildly locked to having Straw Hat cards only in your deck, just because how your leader effect works. You can only have Straw Hat characters on your board to be able to use the effect, so that is a bit of a limiter for it. Luckily, Straw Hats are just like the most common tag in this game right now, so it's not too big of a restriction compared to others. We have a lot of good green purple cards, specifically Sanji and Pudding is kind of like the cornerstone of this deck, and that's never going to really change, I feel like. So half the deck is helping you find that on curve, the other half is helping it stay around a little bit more often with cards like the Going Merry, and then also we do have a little bad tech card. So one card I do think Electrical Luna has been really popular with it, especially since it's good for the mirror match, because most of this deck is just 5 and 6 costs, which you make 7 and 8, so even then Luna can hit that pretty easily. I have been seeing a little bit more of some tech cards too. We do see like the Demonic Aura, 9 sword style, Oscar Demon flashed for kind of some end game pressure a lot of the time. It's not in either of these builds, but if you look at like some of the North American lists, I know that Radio Knife is also a pretty common card that I've been seeing a lot of play. Just the fact that you kind of have like this weird issue in the late game of this deck where the activate main is Dawn -2, and then you get to restand 2 Dawn. So for the max value for this effect, you want to have 4 Dawn tapped, because you lose the 2 and you untap the 2. So because of that, there are just some weird times where, like, if you don't have Zoro in hand or something to spend up all your Dawn, you really don't have like a great way to use all of it. So something like Radio Knife is really good for saying, you know what, I'm going to use this for, I'm going to spend all the Dawn I need, and I get all my Dawn back anyways. So it's the 4 cost for this one is not too crazy, and the fact that it lets you get rid of opposing cards without the as long as Mary Go's not around, you can get rid of like an opposing Sanji Pudding, which is cool too. So interesting card there, and I think it's been really helpful for some other builds too. So not much more to say, but here are the builds for first place for both attack events. Congratulations to both Bill and Steven there. Next up, we've got Betty, and so this has been kind of a good weekend for Betty, not only for the English version of the One Piece card game, but it did win an event in Japan as well. I know a lot of people have been saying, Betty, it's on the rise. It's, the way to be able to interact with some of these like slower defensive decks is just play as many like big attacks we can every turn. And the fact that, our leader effect, if you don't recall, discard one card with a revolution type from your hand, give up to 3 of your revolution army or trigger type characters plus 3,000 power for the turn. So being able to turn, this into an 8k, but also this turns your opponent's leader into a 4k, or more likely a 5k if you're playing against any 6k leaders, just means that you have some great ways to apply a lot of pressure against these decks that are just usually used to like 1 or 2 big attacks a turn instead of 4 attacks that are just going to mandate a card from hand every time. So I think that's a deck that's been on the rise quite a bit. So this is the build here from EPL. We also have BigMomsBathWater, who is also able to get second place in X1 finish with the Unsung Heroes event, or Unsung events here. So we do also have like the new Sabo here. So this is new for us. It's been around in Japan for a long time. The art is different as well for the English version, but activate main once per turn. You may put the top or bottom card of your life to your hand. This character gets plus 1,000 power for the turn, and it's a 2k that's Dressrosa, so it's not too terrible. It's also something you can play off of the Emporio, and then you can boost it up afterwards. You really, sometimes the cards in your life for Betty are just like a resource that you want to be able to get access to. So like the draw one from this, I think, is really handy as well. So other than that, we kind of know what this looks like. We do know that Betty is going to be very viable, in my opinion, going into OP11 as well. It has a really good matchup into the blue and purple Luffy. So that's great. You just have to kind of be worried about the other matchups because it is such a short fuse, right? You just play a lot of bodies. You if you have the tempo to in your favor, you win a lot of games, and if you don't, then you just kind of lose and run out of ways to really do anything. So it's going to be interesting to see how Betty does in its transition to OP11. I do think it's going to get some tops at some of our events. It's just going to be a bit of a it's the consistency and like how polarizing its matchups, I think, are both a positive and a negative too. So here are the builds though, again from EPL and Big Mom's Bathwater, and congratulations for their finish there. Next up, we've got a couple more red aggressive decks. We've got Zoro, Old Reliable, still doing some work here. So this is a build here from Russell, who's able to get a top here for this weekend. The animal package is still just the preferred way to play this deck, I believe. We do also have a new animal for it. We do have the Tony Chopper from EB02. This being able to work with specifically Straw Hat leaders is really nice. It gets you a Dawn underneath your leader, which you always appreciate a Dawn underneath Zoro to get your kind of boost effects. And in general, this has been a really strong deck. So I don't really have that much more to say, honestly. Like, it's been known that Zoro's been good since set 1 when it came out, as OP1001, the first printed leader in a set for this game. But I do also like the fact that we do have Gum Gum Mole Gun. This is great for getting rid of Sanji and Pudding. It's probably like the best way in this meta currently to get rid of it, especially since it's very easy for us to have a 6k body, as well as just like the additional ways that this can get rid of bodies too. So this can definitely help you go 2 for 1. The fact that it's kind of like a mini gamma knife at times too is really cool. So I think this deck is still strong. I think that in the first couple weeks for OP11, I think there could be a lot of aggressively based Zoro decks that just do well because people were trying to figure out how to play in this format and what the best ways to do so. But if you are able to do it successfully, I think Zoro's in a really, really good spot. So here is the build there. Next up, we got Newgate as well, and I had to double check. This is not JCM who topped. This is Daman, who was able to finish an X1 with the Newgate in the Unsung event. So I do think that this is a really good leader into this next format, potentially. The aggression from it is great. The fact that you kind of put your opponent on a clock because you yourself are on a clock. You put out so many 6k attacks, which means that against blue-purple Luffy specifically and green-purple Luffy, they still have to respect your attack every time, which is really good. And, has the OG giant, which is just Rad Beam, right? Nothing besides just getting the plus 4k, which is still very good on a 6k leader. But I think Newgate is just kind of in a strong spot. So other things to mention, Mole Gun or Mole Pistol, already a really strong card, as mentioned in Zoro, so we can take advantage of that very nicely. We also are playing 2 copies of the Goldie Roger. Using this card to be able to go for game is great in a leader that already goes down to 0 life as is. So if you're able to kind of get a big board and your opponent is worried and sets up a couple blockers, Goldie Roger can definitely end the game in your favor, which is nice too. So other than that, we are playing like the Straw Hat version of it, which is I think the most popular version of Newgate that exists right now. And we have a lot of value from like the new Sanji, the new Tony Chopper, as well as the new Monkey D. Luffy. All of these cards are just great adds to the deck and help helps your aggression as well as your defensive properties too. So not much more to say. I think Newgate's in a good spot in this format. I'm curious to see just how well it does into the transition to OP11 as well. So here's Damon's list. Congratulations for their finish with Newgate. The next up, you've got Yamato, which this deck I think is going to radically change in OP11. So I don't have a lot to, I don't really want to talk about this specific build going into OP11 because I don't think it's going to exist as much, but it is a Wano based build though, which I think is going to be kind of the way to play Yamato. So Yamato on release in OP06 was, theorized to be a strong deck, and a lot of people were kind of trying out the Wano package that it got from the set, but it just wasn't really working. So most of the time where Yamato got success was just really aggressive and greedy with a lot of your value cards, right? And that's still very kind of strong, but I think into OP11 we can kind of focus more on the Wano stuff. We do have like the 1-drop Otama, which is a good searcher for the deck, but it only searches for the green Lana Wano cards, which I'd say like half of our cards that are good are from the yellow side. We also are playing the Hiyori, which I do like this card in the deck. You do just get to ramp up into a 5 cost. So the way it works is that you can trash this card, play up to 1 Lana Wano card with cost of 5 or less other than Hiyori from your hand, then draw 1, and then you can play out the Momo, which can put back one of your other 1s or 2 drops, which is really nice. So we are playing the 2-drop Kinemon as a 2K, likely just as a 2K that we can play cheaply, that's searchable off the Otama, that we could put back into our life with the Momo. Otama and Momo working together is really great too. Being able to use Momo to put the Otama back into your life to get a 2K later, I think is good. So that's a reason to play this one as well. And just we all are also playing like the tech of the Mihawk. So on play, if you have 2 or less characters, play up to 1 Monkey Kingdom type or / attribute type character with a cost of 4 or less other than Mihawk from your hand rested. So that can be the Hawkins, that can be the Kikonojo, both with some really strong on KO effects, though even though they are rested, your opponent won't want to attack into them, which is really great. So I think that's strong. I think this deck is in a good spot right now, and it's going to be in a pretty good spot into OP11. I know a lot of people are testing it, and I'm curious to see what the deck's going to look like because it is one of the more open-ended leaders in this game as well. So not much more to say. Here is the build here, though, from our Yamato player Joshua, and congratulations for their finish with Yamato. Next up, we've got Enel, another yellow deck that is running a little bit more of the Land of Wano and kind of like the same 4 drafts, right? Basil Hawkins and Kikonojo are just obnoxious cards that there are existing ways to get around the on KO effect, but the fact that they also have like triggers that if they use like the Charlotte Linland and put them back into your life, it's very strong. The fact that also Kikonojo is super viable in a meta where like there's so many decks that just go down to 3 life so easily, specifically decks that also just happen to start at 3 life. Like this is such a great way to get a value advantage because this card is just really tough for some decks to interact with too. So we do have the new 10-drop, right? This card's been really good for the deck. A lot of people were kind of intimidated by this card existing, including myself. I thought this card could be very scary in this meta, but I think honestly the removal of Kingdom Come in the format was something that just made the decks just really tough to be a little bit more of a late game deck kind of thing. So that's kind of why this is looking like more of like a value version, like aggression kind of ish, like a more of a burn maybe deck, because we are playing like the Nico Robin at 2 copies. We are playing the Eustass Captain Kidd as well. This card being able to burn damage, and then we are just playing the Ace and the Nell. No copies of 8-drop Katakuri, no copies of the 9-drop Yamato, which is interesting. Just a lot of removal, a lot of top end, and we just kind of want to rush our opponent down is what it seems like. So an interesting build for sure. I think Enel does have some great properties. It's still just going to be, I think, mildly relevant until it rotates out, just because the leader effect is so relevant and so open-ended for yellow decks that it's just going to be tough to make it just unoptimal in most situations. So here's Joshua's version of the deck here, and congratulations for their finish with Enel. Next up, we've got Bonney, and so here's the build from Faye, and Bonney did get a new star deck from into OP11, which I think generally speaking, Bonney is not the leader that gets the most benefit from the cards that got printed with it. It still has some great cards, and I have a build that is upgraded with Bonney in that sense. But generally speaking, I think Bonney is going to be pretty unchanged compared to where it was in Japan OP11. Right, there are some like minor optimizations, like the new Kid and Killer 2-drop is really really nice for the deck, but other than that, Bonney still has kind of like I don't know if it's an issue, right? But the issue of just like the top end for the deck is like a little bit okay, right? So I do like the add of Pedro in this deck too. This card being able to rest an opponent's Dawn card or rest KO a rested character with cost 6 or less just means that like some decks have to be like really careful. and how they block and stuff, right? The fact that this is kind of like the same as a Lucky Roo for Shanks. This in this deck is just really, really great if your opponent doesn't sequence their attacks correctly, which already is kind of tough with Bonney, right? The fact that they could play a card, you can Bonney rest it, Pedro block and attack and KO the card they just played, I think is really good synergy, and your opponent just has to kind of play around it. So other than that, we do see the 9-drop Zoro, which I've been seeing this card pop up in decks a little bit more often. It's just like a green tech choice. I do think that the fact that it is mildly uninteractable against like blue-purple, since unless they have red rock, this card stays on the board, and then also the fact that it can really punish a 1 or 2 life leader because it just has a lot of big attacks, I think is really, really strong for how this card works too. So we'll see if Zoro kind of pops up a little bit more in the future. I think Bonney is still going to be really relevant into OP11, and congratulations to Faye for their finish with Bonney. Next up, we've got Teach, which pretty similar to how I said Yamato. Like all of these leaders, right? All of these leaders outside of the Enel, right? We got Yamato, we got Bonney, we got Teach. All of these leaders are still topping, and they got a whole star deck of support. And I think Teach in particular is going to look a little bit different, kind of to the point where it's going to be difficult to kind of get the ratios right for Teach, right? When this deck first came out in OP09, it was pretty obvious which cards were the good cards and which cards were the bad cards. You just played 4 copies of them. You had a little bit of text, including like the finger pistol being a pretty good like way to remove cards and also put cards into your trash to upgrade your Burgess as like a larger cost. But now I think we're kind of in the spot with, the support we got from OP10 and now the support that we're getting from the star decks, that people really don't know the best cards for Teach in this format, the best ways to build it. And I do think we're going to see a little bit more diversity because of the card pool for the deck is a little bit larger than the deck size for what this can kind of handle. So it will be interesting to see what people are choosing for their deck builds. I think that's going to be great. Right now, it's a little bit stale. I think that most of the cards people understand. There are like some decisions like how removal based we are, right? Not as many people are playing like the casino build that are based more off the triggers based on my experience. You do just kind of want to get to a healthy spot and still be able to play your 10-drop Teach, right? That's not changing in any way. I do think that Liberation in this meta specifically is really great because it looks at cards base cost instead of current cost. So this is really great for getting rid of Asanji, putting in like a 4-drop Zoro against specifically green and purple. Outside of that matchup, I think this card is still like a little bit mid, and I'm just going to be curious to see. I don't think this is going to get as good, and I think this is going to be cut into most people going to OP11, but it is, I think, very strong right now. And that's kind of what I've been thinking about for this deck. I really don't know the best way to build it. I think something like Teach is definitely something that has to adapt to the meta and kind of have answers to those situations. And when we don't fully know what the meta looks like, it's going to be difficult to build this on day one. But I am curious to see what people are playing, how they play it, and congratulations to Daniel for their finish with Teach here. Next up, we've got Rob Lucci. So this is Ricky's version of the deck, and this is if Enel's not is the leader that never dies in the show, Lucci's just the leader that never dies in the card game. I think the leader effect is just too strong to never be relevant, right? Being able to fill cards into your trash and give something -1 cost. All for just attacking is just, for no Dawn investment, it's just too good of a ability in my mind. So because of that, we have a lot of cards that can facilitate it, right? We have like a lot of removal, even without Ice Age, even without Gekamori, we have a lot of recursion off of our Rebecca, and a lot of people have been putting Moncheries back into the deck to be able to recycle your Rebeccas. And there are some like weird spots where like it's just kind of tricky to deal with the Moncherie behind a Rebecca if you don't have like the hard removal. So that's very good. We do also have like our top end removal of Jack, which is great. No copies of Kaido in this build, which is a little bit interesting. I know a lot of people are playing that, but 10-drop Kuzan's definitely been a lot more popular in this format specifically. I think that it's a little bit slower to be able to get to this 10. The fact that this card is not searchable off conventional means is a little bit tough because it's not a Navy type, it's a former Navy type. You are able to, and it's also not a Blackbeard's Pirates, which because it's like in that in between, spoilers on the show. But the fact that you could search it from like this, like the song is like the only way you can search it, right? Which is not a terrible card, but not the best way to do so. And you can't even get it back from your trash if you trash it with Rob Lucci. So it's tough. It's a tough way to, it's really tough to find this. It's really inconsistent, but no more inconsistent than finding like Gecko Moria in the previous formats. So other than that, I do like what this deck gets to do. The removal heavy gameplay is really great, and it's going to be interesting to see again how Rob Lucci transitions to OP11. It's kind of like the same thing as Teach, where one, I mean, we don't get that many new tools for this deck. We could maybe make it like a Navy build, but I don't know if that's going to be good or not. But it does mean like Rob Lucci does have to adapt to what the field is doing. What are kind of our good removal numbers, are kind of our benchmarks for what we need for our Rob Lucci to hit, and how to get that situation best. So I don't have much more to say. Here's the build here for our Rob Lucci player. Ricky, congratulations for their finish with Lucci. The next up, we've got Shanks. This is the build from Donnie, and man, Shanks stocks are just at an all-time low, I feel like, right? We started in OP9 where, it'd get like the occasional top. It was the underdog. OP10, arguably one of the best decks in the format, if not the best deck in the format. And then EB02, it's just like, man, this is it's dropped quite a bit, and it's definitely does not appreciate 6k leaders walking around, which guess what, we have a new 6k leader in OP11 that's going to be pretty popular. And I think honestly the relevancy of Shanks is just if it can find a way to deal with that. So we do get a new starter deck with this leader though. I would say that 2 of the cards are playable from the new 5 that we got that are worth looking into. I think the new Shanks could just be great, especially because it's a searchable card off of our Uta, so being able to search it and play it is great. There are some ways that you can cheat it out for cheaper. I think Uta being just another 2k, even though it's not searchable from this deck conventionally, is good in the fact that it's a blocker that you can play for cheap, and also is a 2k, so that's very strong for it. And in general, I think Shanks has some cool tools for it. This is definitely more of the control build, which I think has been more popular than Shanks in OP10 vanilla was definitely more of the deck that was in the driver's seat most of the time, and now it's kind of regulated itself to being like, you know what, I'm more of the control deck. I've got to just have ways to interact with my opponent's bodies and just kind of build a board slowly, and then I just get to the late game and win from there. This definitely isn't like the powerhouse that it was in, like, again, vanilla OP10. So I have a lot of people ask me what I think about this deck. It didn't do very well in Japan in their OP11, so it'll be interesting to see if it's able to get some footholds here in our OP11. So here's the build here from Donnie. Congratulations for their finish with Shanks. And the next up, we've got Reiju. So this is Reform's version of the deck, and Reiju is, essentially got a starter deck, right? It got a whole new package for the deck. All of the Vinsmokes got a new blue version of itself, essentially, with different effects. So because of that, I know a lot of people are excited to test out what Reiju looks like, and I don't really have a lot to say about this build specifically because I know it's just going to change in a couple weeks too. So I do think that the Sanji's been a consistency add that's been helpful for the deck. I don't know if the Foxy Pirates package is going to survive now that we kind of have this additional engine to work with in the deck. So I think that Porsche and the Chopper and the Foxy might be cut. Chopper might stay around just because it is a blocker that lets us get our Dawn back, but it is, I think, one of the cards that is on the chopping block as well. We do have like great removal. I think Red Rock is in a really good spot in this format specifically. So many decks that can run this card will, especially since Reiju can have an effect where they can play Red Rock and still establish a body in the same turn, as long as they have the Dawn amounts for that. So that's really good. I think Black Maria still is great in a format where a lot of decks are ramping. This being able to help you ramp is really good too. And then just kind of like the rest of the deck around it. So in general, I think this deck is strong. I think Reiju's in a really, really good spot in this format, going to be maybe in a better spot in the next format. And it's going to just it's not going to be the premier blue and purple leader. All right. I'll say that. But I do think there is some space for it to be relevant, especially if someone's able to kind of decipher the best way to run the new cards as well. So here's a build from Reform, and congratulations for their finish with Reiju. The next up, we've got Marco, which is Antony's version of the build here. And one of my favorites in this format in general. So Marco has been, one of the kind of mildly, it's a really interesting deck, right? Red and blue has never really been like a super viable color combination. Red isn't like a great multi-color color too, because like the way that its removals and stuff works doesn't have like a lot of synergy with a lot of other decks too. But red and blue does kind of make it work with the fact that we do have a lot of these ways to kind of get card draw. The fact that we can set the top card of our deck for cards like the Emporio as well as the Tony Chopper, I think is great. There have been a lot of builds of Marco in the past, but I do think like the Emporio Chopper build is the best build right now, just to be able to get that extra value and some removal. We do have like our top end of the Newgate, the Silvers, and the Sanji. We also do have the Blue Dragon Seal Water Stream. So this being able to KO one of your opponent's characters with power of 5k or less is really great, specifically because 7k bodies in this format are really important for removal purposes. So just saying on 4 Dawn, you can use your leader effect, give something -2, and then use the dragon there and be able to get rid of a 7k, which again is Sanji Pudding, which is the secret rare Luffy. A lot of great cards in this format are 7ks and don't have ways to protect themselves from this kind of effect. So I think that's great. I think that's hopeful for Marco in general. This is a really, I think the tech card for it is a really great addition for it. And we also do have just a lot of synergies with these colors as well. So I think this is a cool deck. It's been great to see it top as much as it had the last couple weeks. Congratulations to Antony for their finish there. Next up, we've got Lim. So this is Sandstun's version of the deck, and Lim started OP11, OP10 as at the top, right? It won one of, if not the first event in the format in Europe. It got a lot of eyes on it. A lot of people thought this deck wasn't very viable. Our OP10 was definitely different than Japan's because of the restriction list too. And with that kind of void to fill, I think Lim did a really great job being really present in the format. And because of that, there's been a lot of believers in the deck that are still trying it right now. And it's just, in my personal opinion, it's missing some marks when it comes to kind of its consistency. So the fact that it does put a lot of bodies on board is great. I do think the fact that we also put out a lot of 5-drop 6k bodies out is strong. Though I think right now with green and purple Luffy being the deck to beat right now, Lim gets hit by a lot of additional crossfire because the cards that you play out are cards that also fit the bill of what removal is kind of popular right now. So I do think Lim also is a little bit polarizing by how often it gets to go first. I think it's going first curve is so good compared to its going second curve that there's a lot of polarization from it. It's not something that you can't win if you don't go first, but it does make it a lot easier, especially if you do see your curve with the deck too. So I don't have much more to say. I think that Lim is in a really good spot right now. I don't know if it's going to make the transition to OP11 successfully. I do think that this is always a deck though that if it just gets a little bit more support, then it's really viable very quickly. Once again, kind of as we saw with like the Enel, the Newgate being very present for the deck and helping kind of fix some issues too. So I don't have much more to say. Here's the build from Lim. Congratulations to Stansun for their finish there. And then kind of going down, the rest are kind of just like some unique X1s. I guess we started this section with Reiju, but with Smoker. And I had to double check, right? The fact that we have 2 different Smoker leaders viable right now is kind of cool. I know a lot of people were expecting that the red and the green Smoker would be a little bit more viable than it was, but I haven't really seen it perform that much in this format. I do really like the Navy package stuff, and we do get a whole new set of Navy stuff in OP11 too. Half of it's red, but the other half this Smoker can take advantage of. The red half also the red and green Smoker can take advantage of too. So I think both these leaders have some new cards to play with. The Sengoku I think has been kind of overperforming in my mind as a card. In a format where Gecko Moria is banned, this card becomes like the next best thing. The fact that it's a 7-drop blocker, the fact that it's searchable because it does have the Navy tag, the fact that it does bring out a 4 cost or less, which are there are some really good cards for that, including the Hina as well as the Kuzan. Both those are really strong for it. The fact that Rebecca also can add it back to your hand later as well. And you can't play it on the same turn because you don't have access to 11 Dawn in a turn, but being able to get Rebecca to get Sengoku, play out something, and then bring it back the next turn, I think is great. I also do like the Stasi. I think we are in these spots where we have just a bunch of 1-drops, and being able to KO one of your opponent's cards for the cost of that 1-drop is great. And we already kind of mentioned the Kuzan too. So in general, I think Smoker is a really cool deck right now. It has a lot of removal potential. I think Rob Lucci might be a little bit more consistent at times, but there's also just having this Tashigi is such a good card. It's so worth being, playing this leader, and it really does revolve around sometimes if you see this on curve at the important time, or even how many of these Tashigis you see, because that's how you win the game sometimes. So I don't have much more to say, but here's a build here from Han Sol, Choi, and congratulations for their finish with Smoker. For more decks, we've got the Eustass Captain Kid. This is Jackson's version of the deck, and I think Kid's been like mildly viable, right? It gets like a top a weekend essentially from for the last couple weeks from OP10. I do think that is a deck that will get a lot of benefit into the blue-purple matchup. I do think the 8-drop kid is probably one of the best ways to interact with blue purple Luffy. The fact that you trash a card, the fact that the end of your turn is always going to be relevant, and the fact that it's also difficult for them to remove unless they just do like a full turn to red rock you, and then you can just play another one, right? So I think this deck can be very viable into this deck's format. I've been kind of messing with a lot of the cards from this package into specifically the the blue and yellow Nami. Also, the fact that we have the new beige 2-drop blocker is really good for this deck. Just having another card that helps out the deck and searchable off the Luffy, and it's kind of like an in-archetype Shirahoshi a little bit, which is really cool. So in general, though, I think Kid is it did have like some consistency issues. I think in a little bit of OP10 are just some kind of polarizing matchups, but if we're able to kind of fix those into OP11, I could see this deck being very viable as well. So not much more to say, but here's the build here from Jackson. Congratulations for their finish with the Eustass Captain Kid. We've got Uta next, so this is the build from Roger. I've been getting a lot of people ask me like, what's the best way to get into this deck and getting into this game, and it's with this deck. I think Uta, you buy 2 star decks, a couple additional cards, and you're good to go. We'll see if Buggy kind of surpasses that in OP11 as the same kind of thing where you just buy 2 Buggy decks, and if the deck is viable, it's mostly star deck cards, which is good for newer players too. So I do think that Uta is great because you're almost always swinging 6k because you just want to get that value every time. I think the only issue with Uta is that it's the worst green deck to play Hody Jones in, outside of maybe like Lim, because you can't really play Hody and find it consistently, right? You can play the card, but the fact that not only you're not finding it, you're bottom decking any cards you find off the top of your deck with this when attacking effect, right? So you don't want to run a lot of them because you're going to miss out on like your leader draw sometimes, and when you do miss out your leader draw is because you bottom deck Hody Jones and you just can't use the effect. So I do think that Uta though is in a good spot though, as like just a deck that gets a lot of value. The non-film cards though we're running are again the Hody and also the Carrot, which this card is still great, right? I still think it's a great card for being able to stun 7-drops. We can also play Electrical Luna if we want to be a little crazy with it, but I do think that in general this is a good deck still, very kind of linear for how its deck construction works and how the gameplay works, but some decks just really can't get over the amount of value you can do with this one too. So here's Roger's version of Uta. Congratulations for their finish with that Uta. The next up we've got Usopp. So we've got Josh's build, and kind of like Shanks, a lot of people have been like, oh, do you not believe in Usopp into OP11? And sincerely, I just don't see a way to build the deck right now. I could be wrong. There could be some great ways to build it. Honestly, Rebecca playing Zoro and Kiros is still like a really good combo that some decks have an issue dealing with, because again, a 7-drop 9k is just a lot of value for a card like this one. But otherwise, like I just don't know. I just don't know enough for how this deck goes into the blue and purple Luffy. I do think that that's always like the thing, right? You have to have a mildly passable matchup in that, right? Like even like it's a 45-55, you can probably get away with getting playing into that meta, because sometimes blue purple Luffy does just lose by itself. But if Usopp doesn't have that, I think it's going to be kind of tough for this deck. And I didn't really see this deck do anything in the OP11 format in Japan, nor do I think it really gets any support from the blue or purple decks either, because it's all Buggy cards and it's all Teach cards, and they're all pretty much leader locked. So Usopp doesn't really get to play with any of those new toys. So kind of unfortunate. I do think a lot of people are hoping that this deck was going to get like something in the purple and black list, where it was just like a Dressrosa straw hat that you're able to get, if the cost is increased, you get like some kind of ability, kind of like the 5-cost Sanji that is specifically played for more of the straw hats, because this only boosts like the Dressrosa cards. But for right now, I think Usopp was pretty good into OP10 and EB02. It had a lot of great synergies moving forward. I do think the pudding pudding wasn't always in this deck, I feel like, but it's good in this deck right now, so you can catch your opponent off guard a lot of the time. Also just means that you can kind of do like a Hail Mary. If your opponent has like one open for Giant and you know that they have Giant, you can play the pudding, be like, I hope you don't redraw it, And there are some really greedy decks right now that are playing a lot of non-counter cards, and because of that, I think Pudding can be very strong and kind of punish those builds. So not much more to say. Here's the build from Josh. Congratulations for their finish with Usopp. And finally, we've got Nami. So this is SilkySmooth's version of the deck. I've been talking about Nami and the blue and yellow deck, but the blue OP3 one is still in a good spot. We have a lot of removal cards. A lot of people are, commending like how good Nojiko is as a card for removal, and the fact that that card still exists enough for the blue and yellow Nami to exist with it is great. We have kind of like the events that we are mostly used to, right? I think like the kind of tech cards are one, the Usopp, which is formerly the only natural rush card in this game. OP11 Luffy kind of takes or shares that title with it now, but I think the card is good. I'm sure this card still catches people off guard as well. And I do notice that some people just kind of, specifically in the green and purple matchup, there are a lot of decks that just kind of either like just aggressively take cards from their life, or like specifically green and purple. There are times where if they don't respect you enough, you can just actually go for game, like go 15k into game for Nami, kind of like how we've seen it specifically with like the blue and yellow Luffy previously, right? That deck always went down to 0 life to use its leader effect. Sometimes 10 Donna Nami is enough to get you the win for the game, which is kind of scary to think about too. So I don't have much more to say. I think it'll be interesting to see how Nami adapts into the OP11 format. I think it has a chance. Like I think Nami almost always has a chance. If you're playing against Betty, you have a bad time. If you're playing against blue, purple, Luffy, I think that's a good time as long as you respect their puddings and their ways that they can bottom deck cards too. But generally speaking, I think Nami is still pretty viable. So here's the build here. Congratulations to SilkySmooth for their finish, and that is going to be it for this video. So again, if you guys want any of these deck lists or many more, you can find them on my website, Eggman Events. You can also find OP11 deck list too. We've already started getting some deck lists for that too, so you can find that as we go to the next format, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that format looks like as well. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you all next time.